Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, being the lowest rated Disney Plus show on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, it's not just those hateful YouTubers that are pointing this out.
It's misogyny, I'm telling you. Misogyny.
It's misogyny, all the misogyny.
Except it's not.
Misogyny is more fun than misogyny.
Oh yes, I agree.
Yeah, anyway, we're going to talk about this. A lot of discussion about She-Hulk ratings and review bombing and the typical. Every time there's a new Marvel show that has a woman in it and people don't like it for whatever reason, blame the men.
Yeah, but here's the thing. There's been shows that were female-led or had a female co-lead that are much higher rated than She-Hulk.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 275,000 subs.
Woo!
Thank you so much for the support. Greatly appreciated. So this is coming from piratesandprincesses.net, which is Geeky's Disney-focused blog, so we can talk about Marvel and pretty much everything else because Disney owns like everything now.
Yes, pretty much.
So let's talk about this. We've had this discussion before. A lot of talk about review bombing. And what'd you find?
Well, it's funny to me because I was doing, when you search She-Hulk, it's all about, oh, now Rotten Tomatoes. Before it was IMDb, right? Now it's Rotten Tomatoes, the review bombing him because of the misogyny and all this other shit. And here's the thing. It's like, when you actually look at the numbers of all the Marvel shows, other sites were pointing out the different numbers on Rotten Tomatoes. It's actually the lowest rated for sure, yes. But it's not the only female-led show that's that low rated. Some of the female-led shows are much higher rated, or some of these shows you could argue have a strong female character as a lead. They're all rated much higher.
I think in general, just look, I'm going to be honest, just if you listen to the chatter from the fandom, and we know that She-Hulk didn't have the best rating. It did better than Ms. Marvel because, you know. To
be fair, it's not all out yet.
No.
So that could change. If you're going to be completely fair, that could go up or could go down. It depends on how good it gets.
Right. Don't hold your breath.
I know.
But I know that the viewership numbers for the first episode of She-Hulk were not great. I mean, they were better than Ms. Marvel, but Ms. Marvel to normies is a relatively unknown character.
Right. Like She-Hulk is something else I was going to bring up. She-Hulk has been around for decades, and the bar was set high. Same for Moon Knight. People come in with expectations. They're going to come in expecting to see, like, I love the comics for decades. I hope it's as good as the comics. And then they go a different direction. And its expectations are not met. So that is immediately going to turn people off right there.
Well, here's the thing, too. And we're going to talk about this in another video dealing with Lord of the Rings. The marketing, the buzz behind it, the talking points, whoever the hell they have doing their PR. They always blame it on fans, blame it on men. Now, what's interesting is actually the co-star on She-Hulk, the one from The Good Place.
Jamil.
Yeah. She actually said a lot of times Marvel fans are correct and that the studios need to listen. I'll give her props for that. But the marketing behind these shows is always like, if you hate the show, it's not our fault. It's your fault because you're a bigot.
You're a misogynist.
You're a misogynist. You're a homophobe, whatever. And people, as soon as you see that, they immediately get their backs up. They're like, I'm not going to watch something that's going to attack me.
I would argue that just that argument is misogynistic because the implication is if you don't like it, it's because you're a dude who hates women. But there are a lot of women who don't like the show either, or people who identify as women don't like the show either. Well, what about them? Or how are they misogynist? Isn't that argument itself misogynist because you're stepping over women who don't agree with you and basically saying you aren't a real woman or you don't count because you don't agree with me and I'm only listening to women who do? That in itself would be misogyny. You could argue that.
I wasn't listening to anything you're saying because you're a woman.
You're just waiting for me to make you a sandwich?
Yeah. No, that's true. A lot of they never count the women who don't like these shows for whatever reason. And a lot of women don't want to watch a show that's all man bashing. And
no, a lot of women don't. They just want to watch a good show. Happens to have a strong female character, happens to have a strong male character that you identify, a character you identify with. It doesn't even have to be the same gender as you, look like you, as long as you can find something that you identify with, and it's a good story, and you're involved emotionally, you're going to like the damn show.
Now, what's interesting is it's got a 94% critical score.
That's not surprising.
Like everything Disney, but I love this Daily Beast article. This is one of the sites you think would have loved this show, and they're like, it's Marvel trash at its most offensive. So maybe that's what knocked it down 6 points. But audience score is 78%. A lot of people saying it's review bombing. Review bombing. Of course it is.
How was it the same? Was it the same website? Both that's the two stories from the same website.
No, one is
I thought it was okay.
Same picture because we've only got one picture.
Oh yes, because review bombing is the answer because it's review bombing. But I want to point out again, if you go back to my article, if you look at the IMDb thing, you can see here all the 10s, 900. This is before the show came out, right? Back when they were yelling that it was being review bombed by haters on IMDb. 942 or 48.5% of the votes were 10s, glowing 10s when it wasn't even released. And then only 40.5% of the vote were 786 votes were the ones. Now let's look at this. There's hardly any votes to begin with. We're talking like a couple thousand votes. And they're having a hissy fit about a couple thousand votes to begin with. But you can see the truth always lies in the middle. And I always say to disregard the high ones and the low ones. And usually they'll balance out anyway. So if they're getting a score on Rotten Tomatoes, that's a set score of like, 78%. That's after those cancel each other out and you're balancing it out. And maybe people just don't like it.
The MCU Phase 4 is kind of striking out critically and with fans just all across the board. I mean, they can't deny that Thor didn't do very well at the box office compared to what they were expecting and that the reviews were not good. And it's getting harder and harder to mask the fact that normies aren't into Phase 4.
They aren't. And then and like I said, you're coming into it with characters now that are not in the MCU yet, or like weren't in the movies, but have a strong fan base and have been in the comics for years and been popular characters in the comics for years. And then you're expecting that to translate. And the thing is, you're trying to put your MCU spin on it, or the current year Phase 4 spin on it. And the fans of the source material are just like, why can't we just, it was already those things. Why are we changing it?
Yeah, and I mean, at some point, they're going to have to decide here, like, are we going to chase Rotten Tomatoes, or are we going to go for the audience score? And at the end of the day, the numbers are really what matter, and She-Hulk didn't pull massive numbers. It came in, like, better than Ms. Marvel, but again, this is a character with brand recognition. We have one of the OG Avengers. If I were Disney, my takeaway looking at the numbers for these shows would be that people like the original Avengers and you sidelined them or killed them all off, and now you're trying to replace everybody and people aren't having it. And
then what gets also interesting to me, I was thinking about that when you were talking, was Ms. Marvel, the critical score is 98% because it had all the things that the media is shilling for. The pop culture media they go after. So, because it's all so diverse and everything else. But that doesn't mean that the audiences are going to like it and it's going to be a good story, which is a disservice to diverse people, by the way. But I'm just like, maybe you should chase the audience score more than you should chase the critical score, or meet in the middle.
No, you're not allowed to do that. You can't make the audiences happy. It's all about making the critics and Twitter happy. Until it's not. And what's going to happen is, and we're seeing diminishing returns on these shows. Like every Marvel show, they start out really strong with Loki and WandaVision, and then you can see like the purpose of every one of these Disney Plus shows seems to be to replace an Avenger. Like every one of them.
Oh, She-Hulk. Yeah, you definitely get that vibe.
Yeah, She-Hulk, let's replace the Hulk. We've got, Falcon Winter Soldier, let's replace Captain America. We've got Hawkeye, he's training his replacement. Are you seeing a theme here? WandaVision, we turn her into an unlikable bitch, and then we just completely destroy her in Doctor Strange. There's a pattern here, and I think audiences are like, wait a second. What the hell is going on with Marvel that like where's Steve Rogers? Where's Tony Stark?
You're not allowed to ask those questions.
You're not allowed to ask those questions.
You're supposed to ask, where's Riri Williams?
I mean, this is like Disney's mindset with Star Wars. Their takeaway is the brand is stronger than the characters. And it's like, no, the brand is strong because of the characters.
Because of the audience that supported it.
And the audience that supported those characters, and they followed their story, and you can't just slap Marvel on anything and be like, hey, people are going to watch it because it's Marvel, and we can't fail.
Well, that's what they try to do, especially these characters like Ms. Marvel. The mainstream doesn't know those characters, or they aren't popular with them, so they try to give them their own show or shoehorn them in the movies, and then look what happened.
Yeah, it's interesting, though. With She-Hulk, I'm not seeing all the, there are a lot of articles out there about, review bombing and stuff too.
Yeah, mostly it's about review bombing.
But there are some other sites out there that mention that, it's not just the men. Because a lot of people honestly have checked out completely. Like, people aren't brigading against Marvel like they were 2 years ago. People have checked out Fans have checked out. They're just over it.
The
They're over it.
implication that it's all men anyway is very shitty to women. Because when we go see the Marvel movies, who was the one that wanted to go see them more? Me or you?
You.
Yeah, I was the one who wanted to go see them more. And there are a lot of female fans who like these shows. And the idea that if you don't like it, you're against women is just really insulting to women.
This is really reaching. This is I just thought it was funny to bring it up here, but it's talking about men. Domestic violence awareness group boycott She-Hulk over vitriol towards men, and it was like on a Facebook group, and they made a whole article out of this Facebook group that was mad about She-Hulk. It's like, you want to talk about anti-men? We got to make an article and drag these people publicly, but maybe Megan Thee Stallion can.
Well, that's what they're banking on. They're banking on Cox and Megan Thee Stallion.
They're banking on Cox.
Wait,
Cox and Megan Thee Stallion, right? Not Cox.
No, Cox and Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh, I know. Okay, that usually, from where I'm sitting too, that usually is not a good sign when they start talking about all the guest stars, and they start talking, like they were talking about Daredevil being in the show before the show dropped, because that told me they didn't have a lot of faith in the show bringing audiences in without a gimmick. Like, oh, watch it for Daredevil. Guys, you like Daredevil, right?
That's the only reason I'm going to watch it. I haven't watched it yet, and the reason I'm going to watch it is for Daredevil. But again, here's the other thing. Like I said, and I'm going to say it again. It's only 2 episodes in.
Yeah.
We don't know how it's going to track the whole way through. The other scores have been after it's been out the whole way. So it could change. I also want to point out that I've mentioned this many, many times, that it's really hard with Disney Plus, Marvel, and Star Wars type shows because they're episodic, and because they're episodic in nature, you can't really judge it until you see a lot of it, because they're each, like the last episode, people were mad because it was 30 minutes of She-Hulk and that was it.
Yeah.
They're not enough to really tell you enough to judge it. Like, you can't really get a good opinion on how it is until you're several episodes in. I always say wait until it's finished, or wait until it's mostly finished so you can watch a chunk of it. I think that when you can do that, it still a lot of times have issues, but it might not be as obvious or as bad because you're actually getting to see more of the flow. It's really hard when the way they break it up at Disney. They don't break it up well. So I still recommend that. Now, if you do that, it could change your opinion as well.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But I mean, my takeaway is just it's diminishing returns on the MCU. And I think we're going to see more and more of this. I mean, they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel now. Now, She-Hulk could have been a huge deal, but it just seems like they're really, other than the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, which I guarantee you they're going to F both of those up tremendously. They've pretty much played all the major cards at this point, all the characters, and people are they're tuning out. They're tuning out.
I agree.
Anyway, let's wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.